Hey friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Roxanne and this is a makeup tutorial. I have two main looks that I do. This is one of them. This would be more my soft glam. The other is more like an everyday natural look. So I've been getting a lot of requests lately on how to do this look, so we're just gonna jump right into it. Hey friends, so the first thing I have to do is put some type of moisturizer on my lips. This one is a ColourPop lip oil, but I really just grab whatever is close by. For my brows, I use the Absolute New York Super Slim Brow Pencil in the color Smoke. It's so much easier for me to fill in my brows when they're done, like when I'm getting them done regularly. So I go to get my eyebrows threaded like every 3 weeks. Because I do my brows first, and if I can't get them right, it's a no-go on the whole face from that point, or I'm going to have to wear a bang. For moisturizer, I'm using the E.L.F. Holy Hydration Gel-Yea Moisturizer. I love the jelly consistency of it, and it leaves my face very moisturized, which you need for a good base. I also use this E.L.F. Hydrating Under Eye Cream. I use 2 primers. The first one is this Smashbox Photo Finish Primer, and I focus that mainly in my T-zone. I've been using this primer consistently since like 2022, friend. I love the way it makes my skin feel, and I can definitely notice a difference in the smoothness when I don't wear it. Then I go in with my sticky primer. Today I'm using the E.L.F. Hydro Grip Primer, the blue one, but I also use the Milk Hydro Grip Primer often as well. Oh, I also set my eyebrows with the E.L.F. Laminating Brow Gel, but I didn't get that part recorded. My bad, folks. So now I'm using my Haus Labs Concealer in the shade 40 just to carve out my brows. For some reason, it's easier for me to apply it with this than it is with a brush. But I do use a small, kind of dense brush to blend the concealer out underneath my brows. I do try to get them as close as I can together, but you know, we all know, sisters not twins. Today I'm using 2 pumps of my Haus Labs Foundation in the shade 385. That's medium neutral. And I'm applying and blending that out with a dense brush. This is the beat part in beating your face. I'm just patting it in, not too rough, but patting motions for sure. I apply that evenly all over my face except for directly under my eyes. I try not to put too much product there. So for this look today, I actually used 3 concealers. The first one is from Danessa Myricks. This is shade 6. The next shade is from Haus Labs as well, shade number 31 this time. Then the Fenty We're Even Hydrating Concealer in the shade 360W. This Fenty concealer is another product that I've been using since 2022 when I started doing my makeup regularly. I also placed that one on my forehead, down the bridge of my nose, right underneath my nose, and on my chin as well. I use the LYS bronzer stick in the shade Courage, and I placed that on my forehead, my temples, and right on top of my cheekbones. I really do love this bronzer. No notes, like it's so good. I use that same bronzer and a small flat brush to do my nose contour. Since I don't like a super defined nose contour, I used to only do powder bronzer to contour my nose. But now I've started using cream products and it gives me more control. And if it feels sharp, I can blend it out and then soften it with the powder after the fact. And I do bring that up into my brow bone. Then I take that same brush and just kind of soften that line and blend it downward. And I do one little line right across my nose to give that button effect. Now I'm taking a super dense brush and blending out all that bronzer, starting with my forehead. Then I blend out the rest, just trying to make sure I get like as close to my hairline as I can. Luckily, I can do my own hair, so I'll be having to wash it often because there's always makeup in it that I can't fully get out. But it's the price of the game, you know. I use this Tirtir setting spray to dampen my face before I blend out my concealer. I blend out my concealer with powder puffs, and I do use 2 different ones. I start with my forehead, and I try not to bring the concealer out past the high point of my arch. When I'm blending out the bridge of my nose, I use the very tip of the powder puff, and I'm making sure that like I'm not just hitting the concealer, I'm also hitting where that bronzer is to start the process of blending those two together. Then I blend out right under my nose, and when I'm blending out what's under my eye, it's gonna kind of meet that. Remember, when you're blending out with the powder puff, it's just light pats into place. You can move the concealer. That's what I'm gonna do right here. I'm actually gonna extend that line all the way back to my hairline, but I'm not dragging it. I'm just doing small, rapid taps and moving the line back and putting the concealer where I want it to go. So everything we've blended out so far has been the Fenty concealer, which is the darkest color. Now we're going to go in with the medium shade and blend those two together as well. And then you'll see me blend that like underneath that lightest color and over to where the concealer under my nose blended out. And you do this for as long as you need to make sure that it's all blended together. And here's where I switch my powder puffs, because I do like to blend out my inner corner last, but doing it with the same powder puff, it definitely muddies it up. So I'm doing the same motion here, but I'm also going to bring it up above my eye onto my eyelid, but just in the front. I'm not going to cover my entire eyelid with that. You want to make sure the taps that you're doing right here are really light, and that's going to help you get like a really soft, gradual blend. Now I'm using this brush that doesn't have any product directly to it to blend out any areas where two different products meet. So here is where my concealer and my bronzer meet. I'm just making sure that those are blended out into each other. I'm also going to blend out where my concealer and my foundation meet. And then on this side, back up to the bronzer. I always pull my concealer out past the point that I actually want it to stop, and then just diffuse that line with this brush. I'm making sure to blend out my nose contour as well. This is where I have the chance to really soften that line. Now I'm adding my cream blush. This is Rosé and Brunch from Danessa Myricks. It's like a mauve-y, dark pink kind of color. I do place my blush pretty high up, and I also bring it pretty far under my eye. Now I'm using the same brush from earlier to get my blush blended into the mix. Now it's time to move on to powders. First, I'm going to blend out under my eye again with that same powder puff, just because I don't want to set the creases into place. I use the Danessa Myricks Evolution powder in pink to set under my eye and everywhere that I put concealer. Then I go in with the I Am Magic Silky Powder by Juvia's Place in the shade Warm Honey, and I put that pretty much all over. I focus it everywhere that still has foundation as the top layer, but I do use it to get off all the excess of my brightening powder. I use the Fenty bronzer in the shade Thick Mint, and I put it everywhere that I put the cream bronzer, so along my hairline and my cheekbones. And I am a bit more careful and precise with the powder than I am with the cream, just because this is what's on top, so it's what you're going to see the most. I use that same powder puff from earlier to blend out the creases on my lid before I go in with that same bronzer that I put everywhere else and just put it on my lid. Since I'm really not in an eyeshadow era right now, I just use my bronzer to give kind of like a smoky look. It's all one shade across the whole lid. I just place more on the outer corners and make it more pigmented on the outer corners. And then you'll see later that I'll put some highlighter on the inner corner just to give it some depth. I told you I don't really like a really defined nose contour, so I just very lightly use leftover product to contour my nose. And of course, we want to chisel up that jaw just a little bit. For powder blush, I use the Milani Baked Powder Blush in Dulce Pink, shade number 1. Again, I just put that right over top the cream blush. I also put it on my forehead and a little bit on my nose, of course, because we all know what Mona Leo said. Going in with the Tirtir setting spray again. This time I'm going to use just a little bit more. I'm taking a powder puff and just lightly tapping all over my face to get that airbrushed effect. I'm using the L'Oreal Infallible 36-hour fixing spray. Yes, that much. I opened up some new lashes, so I'm cutting those to fit my eye. If you have trouble putting lashes on, just try a thin layer of glue on the lash, a thin layer of glue on your lid, and make sure you let it dry for at least 30 seconds. Really, if you do it in this order, by the time you finish putting the glue on your other eye and the other lash, give it maybe like 10 seconds after that, and it should be ready for you to put on. Get you a handheld mirror and just find the angle that's most comfortable for you. For me, it's kind of like with me over the mirror so that I can see underneath my lashes. But it's different for everybody, so find which one works for you. I use the Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On Eye Pencil, 100% recommend. I only put the liner at the top from my lash line to the inner corner, and then at the bottom from the outer corner till about the middle. I have small eyes, so I don't want to put too much liner to darken them up. And here is me putting on my highlighter that I forgot to put on before I put my lashes on. That does make it a bit easier, but it's not too much trouble. I just put some on the inner corner of my eye and then a bit on the tip of my nose. For my lip combo, I started off with a very thin line of the Traced Out lip pencil from Fenty in the shade Browned Out. Then I go in with I Wouldn't, also by Fenty, and that is by far my favorite lip liner. I use it regularly, and it's the only lip pencil that I've ever actually finished and had to replace. I blend those two together a bit, and then I go in with the NYX Butter Gloss in Madeline. And I top it off with ColourPop's Ultra Shiny Lip Gloss in the shade Sugar Cookie Pearlized. And that's the face. That is how I do this look. I'm trying to start doing these tutorials and hauls and maybe even some hair stuff because a lot of y'all like this. Let me know in the comments if you want some type of tutorial, something like this on how to do this hairstyle as well. But yeah, I'm trying to be a YouTube girly. Thank you guys for watching it. If you made it this far in the video, put the word pressure in the comments for me.